Hello everyone. In this session, we will cover the AI assistant within the Onfinity system. For the agenda, we will cover the AI assistant overview. Then we will go through the assistant configuration and the configuration screens that we have in the Onfinity system. We will understand LLM configuration, where we configure the LLM bar for AI assistant and define the model names and other details. Then we have the AI assistant screen itself, where we will define the assistant for now for the AI assistant for our screens. We will cover the screens for which this assistant is meant. Then we will define the conditions for the screen based on the conditions. The threads will be created for a particular assistant. Then we will define the functions, if any. This is an optional tab, which is there on this AI assistant screen, which can be defined based on the requirements. We will understand where this assistant panel can be seen on the Onfinity screen. Then we will see how we can do the chat with the AI assistant. We will cover the objectives of this AI assistant session. AI assistant will basically provide the real-time insights, predictions, and recommendations based on the form that you have defined for the assistant. It can also analyze large ERP datasets to support strategic and operational decisions. It can also detect anomalies or risk, for example, inventory shortages, if we speak about the material management and other areas. It can also detect the delayed payments based on the screen or the data that is available in the payment screen. It can also trigger automatic actions based on the rules or AI predictions. It basically helps to reduce the human error and to suggest optimal decisions, such as what the best vendor should be, or what the ideal reorder levels should be, and how the manpower should be allocated to a particular task, or if we speak about the ERP terminology. These are a few examples of what AI can assist with using the AI assistant on a particular screen. It can also reduce dependency on human support for day-to-day ERP usage. We will cover the overview of the AI assistant. An AI assistant is a virtual helper that uses artificial intelligence, natural language processing, and machine learning to understand human language, answer questions, and perform tasks automatically. Let's understand the benefits of AI assistant. It enhances user experience with conversational interaction and increases efficiency and accuracy of business operations. It also enables fast decision-making through instant data access. It reduces training needs for new users by simplifying ERP usage. Let's understand these configuration screens. The first one is LLM configuration, where we will define the provider. We will determine the LLM provider for this AI assistant. Then we will define the model name, since there can be a lot of models to choose from. In this example, as you can see, we have chosen GPT 4.1. You also need to provide your API key for your LLM. Let's understand the Verify Configuration button. When you click on this button after saving data, you click on this button just to verify whether the data entered in this screen is valid or not. Then the next configuration screen is AI Assistant itself, where you will define the purpose of this assistant. Let's understand the name of the assistant here. You can define the name of the AI assistant for the screen which this assistant is meant for. Then we have this assistant ID, which is a read-only field. It will be generated when you save the record based on the provider you have selected. You have to define the prompt, and you can provide this prompt as detailed as possible. Based on this prompt, the AI assistant will be able to answer your queries in the assistant panel. This assistant should be as precise as possible. Let's understand the other tabs onto this AI assistant screen, which include the assistant screen, the condition, the assistant thread, and the assistant function that we will cover in this session. Let's understand what fields are available onto the screen and how to configure this AI assistant for your screens. This is how the assistant panel looks like on a particular screen. As you can see over here, we have this lead screen where this assistant panel is displayed on the right-hand side of the screen because we have defined one of the assistant for this lead screen. Next, we will go through the configuration first, and then we will see how the assistant panel works. Let's understand the configuration. First, we will log in with the tenant role in which we want to configure the AI assistant. Once we log in into the system, This is the landing page over here. Now, as we have seen in the previous slides, we have the AI assistant screen where we will do the configuration for the new assistant. Let's understand the screen. If we just toggle the screen, we have this assistant where we have the tenant organization, assistant name, assistant ID, and LLM provider, and then we have the prompt. In this screen, we have these fields which we need to set up. Let's understand the screen where we want to have the assistant, because we can define the AI assistant for our screens. If I open the lead screen, we will create a scenario against this lead screen. In the lead screen, we have the landing page of this lead screen. Then if we move back to this record, I have these number of records on my lead screen. Right now, as you can see, we have these panels, these 10 panels on the right-hand side of the screen. One is the checklist panel, then we have the call panel, then we have this history details, and the analysis panel. Let's understand these panels, which are already configured onto this screen, but the AI Assistant panel is not there right now. We will configure the AI Assistant for this lead screen. Let me move back to my Assistant screen. In the Assistant screen, when I click on a new record, we have this organization. We can configure the assistant's organization-wise. The basic scenario is that if we have configured an assistant in the star organization for this tenant, then this assistant is applicable for all the organizations if the particular record where we are sitting right now does not exist in that organization. For example, if we create our lead in Sonic Ventures and we do not have any assistant for the Sonic Ventures organization, then the system will pick or check whether there are any assistants available in the star organization. It will pick that particular assistant for our lead screen or any particular screen or record that we configure the assistants for. Now in this case, I will create an assistant in the star organization and name my assistant as lead assistant. Let's understand the LLM provider. This is another master screen which we have to select over here in the drop-down. If I zoom to this LLM configuration screen, I have these two configurations already set up for my LLM. Right now in the LLM configuration, if we see here, we have the tenant organization. In the provider dropdown, we have this OpenAI right now. We will be configuring these later on when we do enhancement, and at that time, we will be configuring these assistants or these providers later on. But right now, we have this OpenAI over here. Then there are the model names that you can configure here, which suits best for your practice. You can define the model name over here. This is a text field where you can enter a particular model based on which these assistants should work. I have defined this particular model over here for my assistant. Then you must provide the API key, which will be provided when you set up your account onto the OpenAI or whatever provider you are using. Right now, in case of our OpenAI, we are using this, and I have this API key with me. Let's understand the optional fields. If you have any default parameters for this LLM configuration, then you can define those here. If there is any description, these are the optional fields which you can define over here. You can describe your LLM configuration, what this configuration is used for, and so on. Now, once you have all these fields entered over here, there is a button to check whether your configurations are correct or not. Let's understand the verification of the configuration. When you click on that Verify configuration and click OK, as you can see, we have this message, LLM configuration successfully verified. In case there is any error, for example, if I just save this with a different API key, then click on this Verify configuration and click on OK. As you can see the message over here, configuration verification error occurs because this API key does not validate or is incorrect, which is being verified onto the OpenAI system. Let me just save this record again. And then click on this Verify configuration again. As you can see, our configuration is successfully verified over here. Now, I will just close this LLM configuration screen. Let's understand the LLM provider and prompt section. In this, I will select the LLM provider that I have configured there. Then in the prompt section, you need to define the prompt for that assistant. let's understand why this assistant you have created and what the role of this assistant is. This assistant prompt should be very accurate so that the assistant can provide you with the proper responses for whatever queries the user is asking or whatever task the user wants that assistant to perform. This prompt should be as descriptive as possible. You have to define this prompt very carefully. I have one prompt that I have defined for my lead section. I will just copy and paste that now instead of writing it out. I have just copied it and saved it over here. As you might have noticed, there is one more field for the assistant ID at LLM. Based on the provider that we have selected over here, and based on the prompt and all this information, this assistant ID at LLM will be created once we save the record. When I click on this save record, as you can see, this assistant ID is created at the LLM. Let's understand the basic configuration that we have to do for the LLM and the assistant. Based on this, you can also define multiple assistants for a particular screen or the different screens as well. It is up to you how you want your assistants to be configured. Right now, what we have done is we want to configure an assistant for the lead screen where we define the screen on which we want to have that assistant. Let's understand the assistant screen. There is a second tab that is the assistant screen. When we move to this assistant screens tab, I will toggle it and click on a new record. As you can see, the tenant organization is star, and here in the screen, we can select our screen. In our case, the name of the screen is VAS_lead, and we will list out all the tabs on that particular screen. Let's understand the tab lead, because in our case, I want to configure the assistant for this tab. Once I save the record against the screen and tab, the system will automatically create a tab panel for the lead screen. We have a system configured here, and then we have created an assistant screen entry over here. Once this record is saved, it will create a tab panel for the lead screen. Let's understand how we can check it. I will just do the cache reset and refresh the link. And then I will open my lead screen from the menu. This is the landing page of the lead screen. As you can see now, we have this icon of an aura or the assistant over here. As you can see, there is this assistant panel. Now, we have these records over here. There are two scenarios. For example, we have the existing records in our screen for which we have configured the assistant. Let's understand how the assistant will work in those records and how the assistant will work if we create a new record. We have now configured an assistant for this lead screen. This record was already there. When I click on this assistant panel, it will open the panel here and create a new thread for that record, which will be dedicatedly working for this particular record. If we move on to another record and click on the step in, your thread will be created for those records and so on. There is one more scenario where if you change something in a particular record, the system will check whether a particular thread is created for that record. If the thread is not created, the system will create a thread for that record as well. I will create a new record over here. In the organization, let's say Sonic Ventures, my lead name should be Global Realtors, and the status is new lead rating, let's say hot. The company name is Global INC. Just as an example, lead sources are cold call, lead qualification is budgeted. I will just save this record over here. When I save a record, your assistant thread will be created in the back end for this record. When I click on this as well, the name of the assistant will be displayed over here against which this thread is created. As you can see, this is the lead assistant. If I go back to my AI Assistant tab or screen, we have this AI Assistant Lead Assistant over here. Then we have this screen, and then we have the Assistant Thread tab. In the Assistant thread, as you can see, we have this. This is a read-only tab where you will have the threads created for each record for which you have configured the assistant. Right now, in this case, we have this assistant configured for this lead screen. When we click on this assistant panel, you can start the conversation with the assistant. Let's say if I just say, "Hi, my name is John. Here's the response from the assistant. If we ask any details about this record, then the system will provide us with those details. If we ask what the lead rating for this record is, as you can see, it is responding with the details. This occurs because of the information or the knowledge base that we have shared with this record while creating a thread. We have passed all the information from this record to the AI assistant. This is how a basic assistant can help you in a particular record when you are creating records onto the screen. You can use this assistant and check what information the assistant can provide to you. Let's understand the action panel. We have certain actions on this action panel on the right-hand side. We have this task, we have these emails, appointments, SMS, chat, email, task, appointment. Let's cover how these information that are available over here will also be shared with the record knowledge base. This is done so that if a user later on wants to fetch some data about the chat, or these emails or task appointments, this AI assistant can help you in responding based on those details. Moreover, if you upload certain documents related to these records in the DMS, the system will also create a knowledge base for that. Later on, if a user asks some questions based on that document as well, this AI assistant can also help you on those details and the data from the AI assistant as well. Here is that option from the upload document. If you upload a document against this record, the system can also answer the user queries based on the documents uploaded as a knowledge base to the assistant. I will show you one example over here for the chat. When I open this chat, if I do some chat over here, this is the new lead inquiry. Let us say we are interested in the ERP solution. Whenever a user is doing some chat on this record, this chat is also shared with the AI assistant as a knowledge base. Let's cover the chat history with the assistant. Now, when we ask this AI assistant, what was the chat with this record, the AI assistant should be able to answer your queries onto that as well. Let us see what was the last chat on this record. This was the last message that was sent from this particular user, and this is the date and time. As you can see, it is showing this chat. Let's cover the full conversation. We will see if you can please share the whole chat. These are all the messages that we have done on this particular record. The AI assistant will be able to answer you on your queries. Now, if there is any changes onto this one, let us say if this status is being changed from new to intro mail sent. When we update this record, the status is changed here from new to intro mail sent. When we ask the question from this lead or this AI assistant for this record, we will see what is the new status for this lead. It should be able to answer that query. Here, as you can see, the current status for this lead is intro mail sent. This is how the assistant will work for a particular screen. If I go back to my AI assistant, as you can see, this is the thread that has been created for this particular record. Let's cover documents that have been uploaded against the record onto the DMS over here from this action panel. These documents will be sharing the information with the AI assistant against this record. Let's cover global document sharing. If we have a common document or a document that has to be shared globally across the records for that assistant. For example, I have configured this assistant for the lead screen, and this lead has, let us say, these number of records. Now, if we want that, the document we have shared at the assistant level should be shared across all these records for the assistant. Then we can also upload the document at the assistant level from the same right action panel from this upload document action. Whatever document we have uploaded at the assistant level will be shared across the lead records for which we have created the assistant. Now, if I close the lead screen again, we have created one thread for a particular record, the new record that we have created. Let's cover the login process and lead screen navigation. I will just log out and log in again with my credentials. Now go back to the lead screen again and move to this section. I am onto this record, the Global Realtors, and as you can see, the notes are being displayed here. Based on these chats that we do, or the emails or the appointment transcripts, the AI assistant will also rate those as positive, negative, or neutral on the status section. This is done based on the response to that chat or the email or appointments. As you can see now, these were the chats that were there in the history panel as it just showed up. I just wanted to show you how these things work. Now, if I go back to my assistant panel, it will also fetch all the chat that we have done with the assistant earlier. Based on that, you will see what was the history of that chat that we have already done with the AI assistant. It maintains the data over there. Then you will be seeing the history of the chat. Based on that, you can also start the chat from a previous discussion with the assistant. As I mentioned, for the new record, the system will create a thread for that record in the assistant that we have configured for the screen. If there are already existing records, the system will create a thread for those records as well when we move across them. You will also get to know the name of the assistant over here when you hover your mouse on this assistant. This is how you configure your AI assistant as a basic work for the screens onto the system. As already mentioned, you can configure the assistants organization-wise for a particular screen. Now, if I go back to my AI assistant screen over here, as we have configured this one in the star organization, it is available for all these records that were created in other organizations having this star assistant. Now we can also go through the assistants, which we can create conditionally. Let's understand AI assistant, assistant screen, and assistant thread. As you can see, we have covered these areas. Already we have checked these tabs, what are the fields there, and what those fields are used for. Now, we will check the condition tab as well, how and where this condition tab comes into picture. Let's cover basic and conditional assistants. Now, as we have seen how the basic assistants can be configured for the screen, let us see how the conditional assistants can be configured for a particular record or a particular screen. Let's understand the lead screen again. We will take an example of this lead screen over here. This is one record that we have created earlier. Let me just configure another assistant. I will just copy the prompt again and create a new record over here in the star organization itself. Let's say Lead Assistant UK region, and select the provider. And paste the prompt, then save the record. It will create the assistant ID over here. Then in the assistant screen, I will again create a new record. My screen will be again the lead, and the tab will be lead as well. Let's cover the condition tab. We will move to this condition tab. In the condition tab, we can define multiple records based on our conditions. I will create a new record over here. What I want to achieve is for all the leads that we have created in the other, then this UK region will be created in the assistant that we have created earlier. But for the region for the leads created in the UK region country should be defined or should be created in this new assistant where we are defining the conditions. Let's understand the country ID column. It will list all the columns over here for the table which is linked with the tab or the screen. We have this country ID. We will just check what is the column value for the UK. Let's cover the country value if I go to this United Kingdom. And check the value over here. It is 333. I will unload this. And the assistant operation equals to 333. You have these operations which you can also apply. Save the record. Now here I have this condition. You can also add another column over here and apply the and/or logic. Based on the logic, these and/or conditions will be evaluated, and your assistant will be picked when a particular record is created or updated onto the screen. In our case now, we have these two assistants, both in the star organization. The first one is the lead assistant, where there is no condition that you can call as a fallback assistant. The other one is the UK regional assistant. All the records that I create in the lead screen, where I will select the country as the UK, will be created. And all the threads will be created in this particular assistant. Other than that, all the assistants and all the threads will be created for the lead screen in this lead assistant. Let's understand the lead screen in action if I go back to my lead screen. And over here, I create a new record organization. Let's say I will select Sonic Benches again, and lead name as Vodafone, status again new, Vodafone NC, lead rating as warm, lead source, let's say cold call, qualification, budgeted, sales region, West. And here, this one, I will select as UK. When I save this record, it will create a thread for this record. This thread should be created in the assistant that we have just configured in this one. If I go back to the assistant screen and assistant thread, as you can see, the new thread is created on this assistant thread in this assistant. We have created 2 records. If I just toggle this one, where we have this assistant with lead assistant and Vodafone that we have just created, this assistant is picked based on the condition that we had defined on the AI assistant. Based on this, you can also differentiate or you can upload different documents as a knowledge base. You can provide different prompts for the assistant's knowledge base so that the assistant can answer the queries of the user based on the knowledge base supplied to the different assistants conditionally. Let's cover the lead screen in the Vodafone. If I go back to my lead screen and say hi, this will again help you assist based on the prompt and the other documents applied at the assistant level. One more thing to note here is if I go back to my assistant, the condition 1, onto this condition tab, there is this and/or operation. Let's understand the and/or operation. When I have selected this first record with a sequence tab, this first condition irrespective of this and/or operation, it will be considered as an and. This is the first condition as a mandatory one. If I have selected the control ID as 333, which is for UK, this condition should be satisfied. After that, if you create a new record over here, based on this and/or condition, this condition will be evaluated based on this and/or operator that you have selected. Let's cover the sequence of conditions. The first sequence is always mandatory. After that, these or and operators conditions will be checked according to the configuration that you have defined over here. This is how you can define the conditional assistance for your AI assistant. Let's understand additional features. Another feature that AI Assistant can offer is drafting or generating a reply for the emails on your records where the assistant is configured. For example, we have configured this assistant for the UK region over here in this section. If we go back to our lead screen, this was the record for which we are having an assistant that is the lead assistant UK region. Let's cover the email action panel. On the right-hand side in the action panel, as you can see, we have this email. When we click on this email, we have a thread for this. There is a section over here on the top of this email where you can see an icon of the aura and the prompt text box. You can type in the prompt and ask the assistant to generate a reply based on the prompt you define over here. One thing to note is if there is email history for this record and configurations, for example, we sent an email against this record to someone and the partner replied to us. The mail configuration is configured onto our system, and we have the inbox configured, and we have received the emails from the partners, and we are doing the emails on this particular record. If we do not enter anything over here in the prompt message and directly click on this generate reply, it will draft an email reply for us based on the chats, history, and the email trails. Let's cover the generated email reply. As you can see, the draft says, "Dear Vodafone team, I hope this is going well. My name is this." Based on these inputs, or the history of this, the shared or the AI assistant drafted a reply over here. Now, if in case you want to change something in this reply, let's understand how to modify the email content. If we check this, and it says I am reaching out on behalf of Sonic Ventures, we recently identified Vodafone as a potential partner, and we are excited about the possibility of working together. We would appreciate the opportunity to do. Or you can provide a prompt over here if you need certain changes in this email content or the reply being generated from the AI assistant. Maybe if we say here, please schedule a meeting with the partner. Maybe if I say December 15th, 2025, and draft an email. When we click on this generate reply, this assistant will generate the reply based on the prompt we have defined over here. As you can see now, Based on this information that we already have here, the reply that it generated also included the prompt that we have provided. You would like to schedule a meeting on December 15th, you can do the changes, and it also provides you with the subject of this email reply and so on. This is one of the features that AI Assistant introduces for generating the replies on the email as well against the record. Till now, we have understood all these tabs on this AI Assistant screen, which include the AI Assistant, the Assistant screen, and the conditions that we have checked. Then we have this Assistant thread, which is a read-only tab, where all the threads get created for the Assistant for all the records. The last step is Assistant functions, and we will understand now how this Assistant function will work for the Assistant. Right now, we have been working on this Assistant. We are asking the queries from the Assistant, and the Assistant is responding to our queries. Let's go through the Assistant functions. What if we want to have certain functions into the system where we want that it should return some value, and based on that output that AI Assistant has shared with us, we want to save the data in the system. For example, we have this lead over here, and we want to create certain tasks in the system for the users against this lead. Let's cover how we can do that. Let us go to this AI Assistant. This is the Assistant that we are right now working on, and we will go back to our Assistant Functions tab. In the Assistant function, we have these fields, the AI Assistant, which is the parent column with this, and the screen. Let's understand screen and function definitions. Against an Assistant, we can define multiple screens as it is up to our requirement. Whether we want to define multiple screens over here, we then need to select which screen this function is meant for. We need to select the screen over here. Then we can define the function definition over here. After that, we can define whether that is a custom function or a generic function that is available in the framework itself. Let's cover how we can do that. When I click to New Record, by default, as you can see, this Assistant gets selected as its parent column. In the screen, we can select all the screens or maybe the screen for which this function is meant for. In our case, we have right now only one screen listed against this Assistant. That is coming over here. I can select that Assistant screen over here, and in the function definition, we can define the function over here. The full definition has to be written over here that we need or that we expect our function to do. Let's understand how to obtain function details. For that, what I will do is I will open one of the tabs over here, wherein from the ChatGPT or maybe any other tool, you can ask this question over here. Just provide me a function detail that it gives you this definition, what exactly you require. Basically, it is this kind of a function over here where we will get the name of the function, the description of that function, and what that function is expected to do, including the parameters and all this stuff. I asked it for a function which I want to call from the OpenAI, where it returns an array of the task name, description, start date, end date, and priority. This is the function definition that it provided to me like this. What I will do is I will paste it in the function definition over here. As you can see, there is this create task list which I need, and it should generate a list of tasks from input text with relevant metadata. This is a description stating it should return an object of an array where there can be multiple tasks for this. This was a function that I have already defined earlier. It should return an array, and you can change these columns whichever are required in your case. But in my scenario, what we need is we need to create a task in the system against the lead. We need these columns, that is the name of the task, the organization, description, start date, end date, and the user to whom the task should be assigned, and the priority. And these are all the required columns. This is the function definition, which you can also fetch from the OpenAI itself by logging into the OpenAI account, or maybe from these ChatGPT or DeepSeek or any other tool that you can create these functions. I have saved this over here in this function definition. Let's cover the custom function option. We have this option over here where the first checkbox is custom function. In our case, this is not a custom function. What I need is I have a function already available in the local map function name, which you can see is selected by default. This means when this function executes or the AI assistant returns this function name, what we will do is we will call this class in our system. Based on the output received from that function, we will create a task in the system. This is the basic functionality or the standard functionality in the framework itself. We will understand the skip calling local map function again in the next scenario. But right now, what I will do is we will just create this record and save it. I have saved this function definition, and I have marked this custom function as false. I will use the generic function over here. You see one more button. Click the item mapping button to define your function properties mapping with the selected table columns. Basically, what we need to do here is define when this is not a custom function. In that case, we have to define here whether we need to insert the data in some table. We have to search the table over here. In our case, to create the tasks in the system, tasks are saved in this appointments info table. Based on the table selected over here, all the columns in the table will be displayed in this section, where you can see the columns will be there on the left-hand side. You have the defaults, whether there are some columns which you want to mark as defaults, and then the mapping properties. On the right-hand side, you can see the function properties which are fetched from the function definition that we have just created. Whatever tasks in the system we want to create, what we will do is we will mark this active checkbox as true, which is the default one. Let's understand task creation and column mapping. We want to create a task in the system, so we will mark this as true as well. We want to create this task in the system, and then we can map the columns from the right-hand side from this section. We want to set the task name or description in the task description, and I want to set that in this description column. When you drop it here, you see this field gets the green color, which means this is mapped. Let's cover date and priority mapping. From here, I select the end date. Let's say I want to set the priority in this column. And then for the other columns, let's say I want to set the start date in this column. I want to set the task name in the subject column, and the assigned user in the user field. This is the mapping that I have done. Whatever data will be returned from the assistant, I want to set in these fields. I save the mapping, and the item mapping is updated. Whenever you save these function definitions, this function will be pushed to the assistant as a knowledge base for further actions. Whenever a user requests or does some queries or asks questions from the assistant, it will respond based on these updated functions. Our assistant was this lead assistant in the UK region. Let's cover the lead assistant and landing page widgets. If I go to my lead, and check here, this is the lead assistant with this record. Now if I just go back to my landing page, as you can see, I have this widget over here which shows my task and task assigned. These values are right now 0, which means I do not have any task in the system. Let's understand task creation against a lead. I will go back to my lead screen. Here, what I will do is, I will ask the assistant to create the task for me against this lead. Let's say, please create the task against this lead. Based on the function we have defined and set up, I will need to commit both information. It is asking for some details. What I will do is, I will ask this assistant to fetch the details from the lead itself. Please create the tasks based on the info you have. Let's see what assistant will provide us. Based on this information that this assistant has, the assistant provided us with these tasks. That is the schedule, lead, qualification, call, prepare, and deliver, product presentation. And then we have the proposal preparation and submission. It has provided us with the start date, end date, and the user to whom this task should be assigned, and then the priority as well. It also asks for confirmation whether we want to create this task in the system, or if there are any changes. You can provide a prompt over here if you need any changes in these tasks that it is asking for me to create. Otherwise, if you are okay with this, we can proceed as well. Here I will say, please proceed. And here, as you can see, these tasks have been created into the system. These are the tasks that it asked us before the confirmation, and then it created these tasks in the system. If I go back to my home screen now and refresh this widget, as you can see now, there are these 3 tasks that have been created. This is what the assistant functions can do into the system. Basically, we have defined the assistant functions, and based on that, it created these tasks in the system. You can define your own functions over here, and handle the code as a generic or the specific requirements. For the generic functionality, where you want to insert the record in a certain table, you can do the item mappings over here, and for this generic function. The other option is where we have custom functions. If I go back to my other assistant, I have this assistant. Here I have created an assistant functions for me, this one. I have provided the same description for the OpenAI, which provides me these details regarding what the output should be. Based on that, I have defined my own class in the JavaScript in my module, and handled the output of this AI assistant regarding how that assistant output should be displaying onto the UI. For that, we have this JavaScript class with us, local map function name, in this particular module, that is the CRM extension module that we have in our standard module. Here, we have this lead analysis function in this class where we are generating the lead analysis summary. This provides us with certain analysis of the lead. That analysis we are displaying onto the UI into the tab panel. This is another assistant that is lead assistant. If we go back to our lead, I have one more record that is this one, Global Realtors, that we have just created earlier. Here, this assistant is basically lead assistant, which is linked with the lead assistant. There is one more tab panel that is lead analysis. This lead analysis is linked with this AI assistant, where we are calling this assistant function, which is returning us this output. That output is being displayed by the jQuery in this particular class that is developed or written by the developers. Let's have a look how this assistant works, or this assistant function works. It is a custom function. There is this tab panel where we call the assistant and ask for the analysis summary of the lead. Here, as you can see, there is this global INC company, and it returns this output. And it is being displayed over here in this section as a lead analysis. This is another option for how this assistant function can behave, where we have this custom function. And we have defined our custom class over here in our module. And based on that, we have written our logic to display the data onto the UI in the tab panel. Another scenario is where we have a general function, but we do not want to save the data into the system, or we do not want the AI assistant to call our local map function. This function should just send us the details, and we should display that detail as it is onto the tab panel. For example, let's say we have an example of calculation of the man days. When we mark or create that function over here, that is a custom function. But we do not want the output to be saved somewhere in our system. You mark this as skip calling local map function. In that case, the AI assistant will return you the data as a simple JSON or HTML, and it will be displayed onto the UI as it is, which is returned from the AI assistant. These are the different scenarios which can be handled with this assistant function. These are the options available on the AI assistant screen with which you can create your own tab panels, or make use of this generic local map function name, and create your own custom functions into the system. This is a basic idea of how the AI assistant works. For the screens and the tab panel onto the UI, you can generate the replies with the help of the AI assistant. For AI assistant chat and knowledge bases, you can chat with the AI assistant based on the knowledge base you have supplied at the assistant level or at the record level. That concludes this session. Thank you for attending.